And welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Life from the Inside Out with Chris. And last time we had a just wonderful discussion talking about different cycles that we go through, as well as connections and how nature can be a representative for inner symbols. And yeah, even connecting that to what is the role of our mindsets and a little bit of kind of history of some of the various cycles we've had is humans and kind of what to look for and how to navigate that. So really cool episode.
Cool.
Yeah, if you haven't watched that one, go ahead and watch it, and then we'll move into this one.
Okay, ready?
Yeah, go ahead, Serge.
Now we trust that you are comfortable
Very comfortable.
and we thank you for your consideration.
Oh, thanks, Chris.
In this episode just past, we touched upon mindset mastery, excellence. And it is a good thing to bear in mind that everyone has the capacity to be the very best version of themselves possible, though that requires a sustained commitment to oneself, not to the end goal, but to the process. It's a very different thing. And in particular, it may sometimes present a bit of a challenge when the individual, for instance, would recognize that perhaps even from a very young age, they might have been told in one way or another that they do not have what it takes to quote unquote succeed in life. They might not be smart enough. They might not have the insights or the strength, or they might simply be just too dumb. For whatever reason, they have been told that. But when one is impressionable, open to suggestibility, these kinds of comments and criticisms dig deep in the individual, set roots. And if not checked, then these roots begin to expand, and you have literally a forest of limiting values that prevent you from seeing beyond that forest, from seeing into the clearing. In effect, preventing you from recognizing that none of these things are true. In fact, the opposite is likely true. But just because some other people were never able to venture there, sometimes it is utilized as a means to then prevent you from going there as well. Why should you go there when we could not go there? So this is passed on generationally, one after the other. We could, in theory, ask how many Einsteins have gone by the wayside? How many Madame Curies? How many this and that? Simply because no one believes that they can do something simply because others said you can't do it. And we may indeed have pointed this out before, but it were bears repeating for many, many people. The first 15, 20, or even 25 or so years of their lives is an accumulation of beliefs, conclusions about life, perceptions. And after some time, as you grow into your 30s and later, you begin to recognize a nagging feeling that something is not properly balanced. There is an imbalance, there is a conflict somewhere. And this may grow into quite a crisis of identity, simply because the individual is starting, even if unconsciously, is starting to recognize that they might not be the person they were told they had to be for so long. Now it is a process of dismantling, removing those particular layers, those incomplete or false identities. And a new quest begins, a quest of understanding. Some people may refer to it as, I'm trying to find myself. It is a misnomer, because you're never lost. However, you may have lost sight of yourself, which is a different issue. Simply because the sun is hidden behind the clouds does not mean the sun is lost. So you remove all these particular layers, these even false assumptions about yourselves, which again can take some time. And this is where mindset mastery comes in, where you learn to manage all these kinds of things and to peel back whatever false identities that you might have accepted as told you by others, even if they are well-meaning, it is not you. And then you begin to reconstruct yourself. And that is why very often people from their late 50s, 60s, and on sometimes become more creative than when they were younger. Because they are recognizing that they have been behaving in alignment with how others expected them to be. Now they are aligning with the way they expect themselves to be, which is a different ball of wax. So that sparks off creativity. It sparks off curiosity and a recognition that finally they have come home. They feel more themselves, even if they don't have the right words, they may feel more themselves than they ever have before. Because now they are living life on their terms. And that can take years to arrive at. But the journey there is one of excellence. It fosters more excellence. And when you operate as the best possible version of yourself, those around you also begin to, we will say, vibe in sync with you. Because they too sense that you are speaking and being your truth. Not how others might have wanted you to be, but how you are making that conclusion yourself. So that is a very different experience. And a great many people literally are rediscovering themselves. And if we, along the way, are able to also assist individuals in that way, then we do so very gladly. That is the purpose of living. Being yourself and helping others be themselves. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, it does. And one thing I've used in connection with that theme is the idea of like accepting our own uniqueness. I think is the best way to say it, and exploring that, and just kind of owning this idea of yourself.
Indeed, there are times when it seems overwhelming that my uniqueness may cause other people to back off, back away, because they are not able to be their own unique selves. And being unique, as you mentioned, does incorporate all of the little so-called flaws in the human personality. It does not mean that you become perfect, for there is not such a thing. But it does mean that you become content. You recognize there is a deep-seated contentment with just being who you are, which is why we sometimes ask someone, do you like you? Or even, do you love you? Some people may feel very uncomfortable, very awkward, even thinking, because in their own mind, they're thinking, well, yes, but their actions may speak differently. They have a conflict. But when you can come to a place where you genuinely recognize that, hey, I kind of like me. Yes. In fact, I do like me. Do I love me? I might not have in the past, but yes, I do. I embrace my whole self, at least as far as is humanly knowable, that I can recognize as a human being. I like me and I love me. And that does begin to shift so many different visions of yourselves. Just embracing that very concept, because you may recognize that there might be certain aspects or parts of you that others have encouraged you to dislike because they disliked it. But you are a very nice person. So therefore, yes, I will like me. Because if everyone did what everyone else wanted them to do and be, then you would have a mirror society, and most likely a house of mirrors society, which, come to think, is not that far from the truth. Many, many distortions. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, I follow that.
Please continue.
Well, I was just thinking though that there is the house of mirrors that create the distortions, but there are mirrors that give a more true reflection. And as I say that, I'm wondering what a true reflection might be.
Indeed.
But at the same time, I do think that there are opportunities for less distortion too.
And that is why you have the phenomenon of the physical world. It is a reflection of your psyche. Your conscious and unconscious selves and everything in between. So it will show you what your life is. And you can do so by recognizing that first and foremost, the so-called outside world is not outside, but that you are inside your world. You're not just out in physical reality, you're inside your reality. In doing so, it gives you the opportunity to truly appreciate yourself at a whole new level. And it can really enrich your experience. Go for a stroll in your neighborhood or on the beach or in the park. Go for a drive in the countryside. Go downtown. Everywhere you are, consider this is just another kind of dream, one that seems absolutely real to you. But by viewing it this way, everything is, as in a dream, a symbol. So say you see two people having an argument or a fight that may represent certain internal conflicts that you have. You might see a beautiful tree full of blossoms, and that might symbolize some delightful emotions that brings you a certain level of contentment or fulfillment. So view your own physical experience in this particular light, and after a short time, you will be able to, quote unquote, interpret in exactly the same way you do with your dreams. Because dreams are symbols, and symbols communicate information to you in symbols, in symbolic form. The physical world will do the same, but you have to kind of get into that zone. And in particular, there are many people who say they cannot ever remember dreams. And yet they walk about in the world with their dreams. So they do remember their dreams. In fact, they are living in the dream. It just appears a little more solid than the dream in their mind. So there is this beautiful experience and exchange, a literal relationship with the symbols in the world, the symbols in your dream, and the symbol of your own experience. And all of that is perception. It speaks to your conclusions or beliefs, limiting or nurturing. It speaks to that. So it is important. The onus is on the individual to do a little bit of work, just a little, to find their way through their own selves. Now, we will return, Joseph, to your lovely self, and we thank you for your consideration.
All thanks, Chris. Until next time.